And now it's my really great pleasure to introduce you Shahrokh Shariat from Vienna, actually. And Shahrokh actually moved to Vienna when he was a child. He's from Iran, and he graduated from high school there and studied chemistry and mathematics at the Federal Polytechnic Institute in Lausanne, but then transferred to the MedUni Vienna to study medicine. I had the pleasure to visit it a month ago. And actually he did the university, studied, and after that he also chose to move around in the world to learn plenty of things. This is, I always try to refer for the students, that staying in one place, you know, will not bring you bring big experiences. And this is like a must if you would like to achieve results. And he went to the US, he did the fellowship there, he did the university residency there, and after he did an unbelievable huge career in urology, and especially in research in prostate and bladder cancer. To be honest, it's definitely, we can say that he's really the worldwide #1 urologist for sure. So his current position is actually, he is not only a brilliant scientist, but an unbelievably big dreamer and manager as well, because to dream alone without strategic plan, sometimes we call it, it's just an idea which plenty of people has, but he established the world well-known comprehensive cancer center, actually in Vienna in 2022, and he received huge amount of prizes, and he is an honorary doctor also for Semmelweis University with Peter Nyiradi, who is here, and I'm very happy that to see like Tamás Fazekas here in the audience, who has already had the chance to visit actually Sharokh's laboratory. He had plenty of titles he received and awarded even the Popular Doctor 2023 prize approval by the career, and his research actually focusing on molecular mechanisms of cancers, how the cancer develop and how you can interfere in this genomic part. He also, and this is highly important if you are a clinician, and I showed at the very beginning of my talk when we were here, that also translating knowledge is important, and not only for scientific papers, but also for social media, because people need to understand, people need to know actually what you are saying. He received huge amount of honors and prizes, and at Academy of Europea we were very pleased that he accepted also the invitation, and now he is member of the Basic and Clinical Translational Sciences sessions. He received one of the most prestigious prizes actually in urology, the Cystoscope Award in 2017, but even he received the Matula Award as well, which is also a very nice prize for that. So he also has wisdom, and I really, when I heard his presentation last year or 2 years ago in this program, I was completely inspired by his speech, and actually his speech let us develop the soft skill materials, because we found it's unbelievably important. And there is a big hack what money is doing worldwide, and actually money is the one we need to almost forget to go forward, because this is the important lesson we must realize what is important actually, and money, of course, something you can buy, something which actually works, and just constantly chasing money will definitely doesn't make success. So it's really, I know, Shahrokh, how busy you are, and how extremely your centers is every minute counts what you are doing. So it's an incredible pleasure to have you here, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. It's a tremendous honor and pleasure to be here, and I feel a little bit like an imposter coming here after these two wonderful talks and with all this talent filled here. I don't know what I'm going to talk to. And I thought when Peter asked me, he said, don't you want to talk? And we're going to have these wonderful speakers. I said, there's no way I'm going to come. First, I told him, I'm not coming. It's like, I will nudge off. I said, what do you want me to talk about? The urologist, about rectal exams, or what do you want? Nobody wants to hear about that. And then he said, no, I want you to talk about what you talked about some time ago. And I said, in honesty, everything I will tell you over the next 20 minutes is nothing for me. And that's very embarrassing because the other two speakers are really achieved, successful scientists, leaders, academicians, world statesmen. And all I'm going to tell you is what I learned from my mentors and from my friends. And some of my mentees actually taught me most of it. Yesterday night I was sitting with my daughter, bringing her to bed, and she's 6 years old. She doesn't want to go to school, it's typical because before she was very pampered at home. And she says, wait, I said, I'm not going to see you until Sunday. And she said, oh, where are you going? I said, I'm going to go to a place where I'm going to learn a lot. She said, what? You still need to learn? She said, Dad, what's wrong with you? I said, yes, it's always learning. And this place you're here, the moment you're having here, this exchange that is this little bubble that Peter has created in the middle of this crazy world where everything runs around success, money, visibility, and social media, this bubble where people come together, share ideas, it's very special. In this increasing entropy we see, it's where order and peace comes. And I really want to really congratulate you, Peter. When I met Peter, it was one of those people, you meet immediately, you connect, and something special arises in your heart. You're running at a level, and this is going to be a tremendous friendship. And I immediately, from the first second, learned more. And I'm coming here, and I was sitting there, and I was writing the quotes you two were saying, and writing my rector, and I said, we need to create something like this in every place. We need just to multiply. So you're at a very special place, and I hope you realize it and take a bit of this place on these moments and share it with the rest of the world, and you created a better world. So I'm going to give you something. I'm a physician, so I'm going to give you 11 ways to level up your game, right? And as I said, these are things that I've learned from my mentors. So I'm a surgeon scientist, so I'm a not, so you heard the progression, you have the real thought leaders and the people who have discovered things. I haven't discovered anything of value. And I don't think I will ever do, but I hope I will be a catalyst for other people's discovering, recognizing their talents, and helping them fulfill their destiny. I'm currently the professor and chair in urology, a specialty that is rising in importance because of the aging population, and I run the cancer center. And I'm very lucky to be connected to many universities, and I like that exchange, being at different places. The world has become global. Research is global. It's really changed. It's not in one laboratory, but with partnerships. I'm a married, happy man. My wife is as crazy as I am. She believes in science, academia, and we live in this parallel world. Sometimes I feel I did my training, as Peter said, in the United States to a large part, but I traveled around. And one of my biggest honors is to be here at this university, doctorate, honorary causes. But also, as Peter said, I spent probably 30% of my time in charities, one for refugees and one for torture patients or people that have been tortured. And that is the most rewarding place I ever get. That's when people ask me what you do, that's where I get my energy. When you help people and don't expect anything in return, that fulfills you. And I work also on many advocacy groups for cancers and so on. I will talk a little bit of my patents. Unfortunately, none of them changed the world, and I've not made money off any of them. And I really regret sometimes one thing that I don't have. I'm not a businessman. I'm not a good scaler and so on. So this is something also we'll talk about, which is also important for science, because you need to communicate, you need to exchange, you need to scale your research and so on. These are my disclosures. None of them will really affect the content of my talk, except my deep belief, and Tamas was very lucky to have Tamas with us. He, I hope, saw it. My life story is per aspera ad astra, through hardship, but to the stars. We need to go to the stars, and there's going to be some hardship involved in it, but that is part of the game. So this is where I'm coming from. It's an old university, one of the oldest in the region. in Central Europe. You know, Central Europe is one culture, one entity, one identity. And it's built in 1365. It's Europe's largest medical school. It's also Europe's largest hospital with over 2,200 beds. So it's an incredible environment to do experiments, to learn, and to translate what we heard and what Peter said, and translate and test it if it's true, and then take it back to the research field. And we have a big campus on there. But there's also a legacy. I'm an aficionado of history, and I think history is important to understand where you stand and where you're going to go. It's also the birthplace of specialized medicine. And as you know, in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, this was the place where everybody brilliant came together. And that was a very special place, a lot of discoveries, 7 Nobel Prize winners. And if you look at the names, none of them are German almost. Most of them are from the region. Actually, my specialty was created by a named Zuckerkandel, who came from Győr, right? Urology really arose from him. And Ignaz Semmelweis, you know the story, I will a little bit talk about it, but there's many brilliant things. And I think that legacy that we have in this region and beyond is an obligation to humanity, an obligation we need to fulfill. We're not passive, we should be active in this process. So I promised you 11 tips. I wanted to bring it down to 10, but I couldn't, because 10 is a magical number, but so for 11 tips. The first one is dream big. You know, I spent 20 years in the United States, and I learned one thing, is you have to strive to be superb. You do have to do something significant with your life. Not, you know, when you were a child, when you were in school, most of you are studying in certain places. You want to do something very great in your life, and you need to start by doing something big and believing in yourself. And I know that specifically this is for the Central Europe, because in Central Europe we all like thinking, not being different is good. You know, people tell you, stay the way you are, don't be too loud, and so on. In reality, being different and that diversity and having what is special in you and bringing it out and sharing it is very important. Being different and aiming high is very good. It's not something different. And also, biggest motor of that is that curiosity that I see often people lose. And that's why I enjoyed your 2 talks. I see that you're really curious, and that curiosity is like a muscle you need to train and to maintain over life. Asking questions. Einstein says, I have no special talent, I'm only passionately curious. And that is the thing. And the greatest people I ever met, when I met them, I talked to them, they asked me 10 times more questions than I could ever ask them, because they wanted to learn what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, and I wanted to learn from them. And that is something you need to train and be part of that dreaming big. Number 2, you heard it a little bit over the last 2 talks. Being ready, it's called luck. But the luck only, like Pasteur says, favors the prepared mind. So you need to prepare your mind, know where you're going, and when the opportunity arises, you need to grab it and take it and go on that, you know, that adventure and risk everything. So every day, you need to put yourself closer to that bigger goal by working toward it, thinking about it, feeling it, dreaming about it. It's with this aligned mentality that you'll be able to make that winning move. And we heard about how discoveries sometimes are done. Number 3, you need to start as early as possible. This is really tailored to you guys, because often I hear, well, later in my life, I will do it. Now I will focus on other things. I will learn, but maybe later. But there is no later. As you're going to progress through life, there's going to be so many challenges come. Family, children, you know, in your private life, disease, that, yet. In universities, it's amazing. The more successful you get, the more they give you administrative jobs. It's like to destroy your creativity and destroy your so you don't create too many problems. You know, if you imagine you would have every year an Einstein coming, society will fall apart, right? So what does universities do, academia do? They create this thing, they give you jobs, they put you in committees and so on. This is the end of your career, actually. I believe the creativity is the biggest. If you ask probably the 2 wonderful people that spoke before, the ideas, the things they had, they started very early on in their life. This was not something that happened, you know, late in life. This is totally different from politics, writing, you know, where this fields music, where you get always better with life. This is really science, is very early on. The least you know, the more creative your mind, out of the box you can think. So also I tell to my students, and Tamas knows that, I said, read articles, review articles. It's not, you don't have to be an expert. You can learn the skills of doing a lot of things, enrich yourself. So it's early you need to start putting you in the position. But while you're doing that, one of the biggest challenge I had is I loved a lot of things. You know, I wanted to be an historian first, and I wanted to be a mathematician, and then when I was doing research, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. And I think you need to be focused while you're still doing that. You need to be focused in the area you're going to be the best. You're going to be like engaged, you have to be obsessed almost. You have to be like such that the people tell you, wow, what is wrong with this guy? He's only thinking. But when I'm walking around, I was so focused on that thing. And in America, I learned that they always tell you at all universities, focus, focus, focus. Don't do 20 things at the same time while keeping your mind open. My mentor always told me, be master of one, not mediocre of all, and that is very important. Einstein says, any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention he deserves. So in that moment, whatever you're doing, you need to be absolutely focused on that detail. So number 4, I think a large part of being, achieving and having fulfilled life is being courageous. And being courageous is about taking risks, trusting your instincts, and accepting to make mistakes. Einstein says you have to triplicate your number of mistakes to get forward. And that is exceptionally important, specifically in our culture. Now in the United States, making mistakes is okay. In our culture, mistakes are equivalent to failure. And you need to break that, that stigma. Mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are a way for you to learn, to grow, and to be better, and repeat it. And we heard it many times. How many times you have to repeat an experiment until you actually succeed? And actually, you may find something you don't want to find, but recognize what you're going to find. So I think this is very important. And by being courageous, you have to challenge dogma, which is very difficult. There's a lot of research projects, but as you said, research is such that it's in front of your eyes, many things, but most of the things in medicine are pure dogma. My teacher taught me that every textbook you open, the first sentence is wrong, and I can tell you many things. And I had a teacher that was very incredible, and one day I went to him and I said, I want to do research on something important that is really challenging dogma. So he said, what do you think is safe, that you can say safely, this is true and is proven to be true? So I thought about nothing in oncology. I'm doing oncology mostly because there's also in oncology you always find something that is, turns out to be different. So I said, well, I think urinary tract infections. So I thought, urinary tract infections is safe. Urinary tract infections is women getting more urinary tract infections than men because they have a shorter urethra. This is like, there's no single textbook you will ever find that is disagreeing with that. There was approximately 15. He said, okay. And he never gave me, told me what he thinks about it. He said, go investigate that. So I went to investigate that. So I found out that, urinary tract infections in adults and young people are the same rate. So, and the urethra is a different length. So maybe it's not that. So then I said, it probably has to do with, sexual activity. We talk about honeymoon cystitis and so on. So he said, okay, go investigate that. Then we did a lot of research, found that in nuns and prostitutes, same rate of urinary tract infection. So it doesn't have to do anything with sexuality, right? So, okay, then, and housewives as well. So then he said, what do you think it is? And he didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. And then through that iterated Socratic approach, we figured out it has to do with hormones. Hormonal changes that happen over life that allow the microbes to work differently. And so on, this guy, by leading that, we discovered, another guy discovered Viagra and did the basic research that led eventually to Viagra and so on. So I think what is important is also here to challenge dogma in specific things where it's necessary, and you will discover the most incredible things. What is known to be true may not be true. And what happens is actually people will oppose you when you start saying things that are absolutely, self-evident for them, right? So I had a very great chance to meet Judah Folkman, who is the father of angiogenesis. He discovered gender, he didn't invent it, but I want to say he invented it because it didn't exist before him. So I was very lucky because I was at a meeting a meeting like this, and it was in Vail, and suddenly it snowed in, and we were like 5 people who couldn't leave the place. So the poor guy was stuck with me, young student, and I asked him a million questions. And one of the questions he was telling about his life was impressively that at the beginning when he was thinking about angiogenesis, everybody was laughing about him. Everybody was saying no. He was turning down his grants, and everybody was, he was like the, not very respected person in the science community. When the things started to pan out that he was right, all those guys that were turning down his grants and were against him took their huge laboratory efforts and put it on angiogenesis. And suddenly he had to resign as a chief of pediatric surgery to do full-time research just to catch up with these huge labs. And I think this exposes what Schopenhauer says. All truths pass through different stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And if you survive, then it's accepted as being self-evident because it was okay like that. And I think your toughest critics will be the first to claim your idea, and that's okay, as long as you change the world for a better place. Because it doesn't belong to your idea. For the idea to fly, it belongs to everybody. It should be shared, and we heard that before. This is to be successful. The way of changing the world is not to keep those ideas to you. And one thing he told me, and I will come back to it, is that I asked him, what is your secret to things, to being so successful or so? And he said to me that, just perseverance. Had I stopped where everybody was ridiculizing me, had I stopped where people were laughing about me, they would have called me a little, dreamer or a little crazy person. And just because I persevered, I succeeded, and now they're all, this idea is really flying. So that is very important, having that courage to believe in yourself. Tip 5 is also for you, because you're thinking, oh, this is great. This guy is coming from Austria. They have more resources. They have more money. He's coming from America. They're very rich. And in the UK. No. Make the best of what you have currently at the place you are. Because, I hear it often. People come to me and say, oh, I couldn't succeed because of this and that. And they're attributing their own failures to the environment. So is that how you want to end your life? I wasn't successful because something around me happened? No. I think you have to make the best of what you can with the environment you're in. And actually, each environment has strengths and weaknesses. Right? Each university has strengths and weaknesses. There is no perfect environment for you to work. I actually found myself to be the most productive at the worst place I ever was. So I was a medical student, and I said, I'm going to go to the United States. I did my last exam. I packed my things. The next morning, I was in a plane. I didn't even know if I could have failed the exam. Actually, I called my parents and said, I'm on the plane to the United States. And they said, oh, you're crazy. Where are you going? I wanted to go to the United States because I wanted to see the world, how things are done differently. I arrived there. My mentor had left a week before. With all the lab, with all half of the department had left to New York, became chairman of Memorial Sloan Kettering, of the surgery department, and had a huge. So suddenly I was there was nobody. So they said, if you want, you can come there, but it's going to be really difficult because we have no space for you, we're just building up and so on. So I started everything at zero. At the beginning, it was really challenging. I said, okay, I'm going to build a lab, I found another mentor and so on, but I learned how to build relationships, somebody who I was not entrusted to make him attractive myself as mentee to them. I learned to do statistics myself by finding some random people to ask them and learn. I learned how to build a lab. Imagine a young guy building a lab with all the things you need for a lab. It was a catastrophe at the beginning, right? But it took me 5 years. But in those 5 years, I learned everything that made me successful for my future career. And obviously, I didn't publish for the first 2, 3, 4 years because there was nothing to be published. I was just building the infrastructure. But that formal years in that terrible environment made me incredibly resilient and strong for the future. So what I want to tell you is, wherever you are, make the best of what you have. Don't make excuses. Push ahead with what you have. True winners transform an apparent defect into an asset. For example, if you do research, maybe you have a patient population that is really different. Maybe there's a question that is really different that you can use in the last place on earth. There's something to be learned and to be progressed. So I believe don't let the environment shape you that much. You shape the environment. And then learn the rules, also in academia, you have to learn the rules of the game. I learned that many times because I went to America, different rules of engagement and research. I come to Europe, again it changes, and then learn them and play better than others. I liked for that video, if you see this is a Lamborghini that built out of paper. That guy dreamed big and did a Lamborghini out of paper and he's enjoying driving around. And he made a dream come true. Often, shortcomings that happen in your area of research, you can overcome by collaborations. As I said, research today is like a multinational. These are all my partners. And Hulk is also in there, so I love you put Hulk in there. So you have some GFP back there, you have whatever you need. You have basic research, you have clinical research, translational research. Only together it can be successful to save this planet and make it a better place. And I have a lot of partners around the world. Whatever I don't know-how I don't have, I go and find a partner and work with them. And today it's getting even more and more part of how we do research. Tip 6, work hard. Now, this is something you say, okay, I know that. But when I mean work hard, it's specifically to the next generation. You have heard about it. This cannot happen in you doing 30-hour a week. Cannot happen. You need to really dedicate everything you have for many, many, many years. And it's like going to the gym, right? You say, okay, I go to the gym. I'm going to work out 5 hours. I'm going to be huge. No, it doesn't happen. You maybe have cramps. It's going to be over 10 years, half an hour a day. You need to be perseverant and consistent, and you need to put the hours in it to become good at it and to succeed. The chance, luck to have a discovery that is huge is very unlikely. It's a lot of work. The idea may come like that, but then you need to prove it. You need to disprove it. You need to look at the alternative hypothesis. You need to defend it. You need to push back. So all that is important. And I said per aspera ad astra is my life motto. So I think you need to immerse yourself in the problematic and be like an obsessed to a certain degree. And you need to think, dream, and really treat the patients. For example, in those that are in medicine here, the problem, address the problem, live it and work at it and make errors in it. Because a large part of what the progress happens is in your subconscious. And that works while you're sleeping, when you're addressing the topic. And then you wake up in the morning and you think, and you have made some progress without knowing. Perseverance I've talked about. Perseverance is what Judah Folkman, many other people said. Perseverance is 20 years working on the same problem until having the, addressing it. How many electrophysiological experiments did you do? Perseverance, right? And error and perseverance and getting, it's not 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And these 5 years you get depressed. No papers, no money, no respect, nobody comes, because that comes at the end. But that is very important. I find it in my students, those guys that spend an additional hours, my doctors, I tell them, when everybody goes home, go back to your sickest patients, sit at the bed, take their hands, and talk to them. Those that take that advice, they learn so much more about the patients the next day, the problem, what really moves them, the patients. Those that every day take an additional hour to read 5 more articles and learn about them, dissect them, even if they don't understand the language at the beginning, there's those that are going to get further. But it's not only all about working hard, it's also working smart. And that is the difficult thing. So if it's too complex, whatever you're doing is too complex, too difficult, then probably it's not the right way. Make it important but simple. What does that mean? For example, I spend, I'm a hobby researcher. I'm not a serious researcher, but I'm a hobby researcher, and I love it because I like to ask questions. find answers, and those answers to matter to my patients. So I'm applying, you know, knowledge that's gained all around the world to the patients. I try to make it. But I try to spend all the time on a critical experiment that will answer my questions, not a lot of the other experiences. So it comes from a different perspective because I need to translate it into value. And I think this is the perfect talk, in the perfect session, because you heard about basic research, you heard applied, and now I'm really at the clinical translational part. So tip 7. I think I told you before that you need to be courageous, believe in yourself, and dream big. But I also tell you, and now I'm creating some schizophrenia in you, you need to also believe your hypothesis, but play the devil's advocate. That means make mind experiments. Listen to others. Be respectful to others, to other opinions. Because probably the truth is somewhere in the middle. Most discoveries that will happen is when you're sitting at a dinner and listening to somebody else talking about something, or, you know, incredible discoveries will happen from other specialties, or by somebody having a different perspective on what you do, and that will help you design the experiment that answers and proves your point, or maybe doesn't prove your point and made that discovery that needs to be made. So I think this is very important. The greatest discovery will come, as you heard, by accepting something you didn't expect. You heard that already today. I have 4 patents. 3 of them were random. 2 of them, I think I wanted to kill my research associates because I told them an experiment. They come back, they show me other results than what I expected. I send them again, do it 5 times I did. I had already spent $150,000 on these experiments. I said, I'm going to be bankrupt. This guy is just not getting right. Until the 5th time, I looked at the results, and we had just discovered a protein that mattered in a disease that I could have discovered the first time, but my mind was just not open because I wanted to find something else. So that was the first patent. The second patent was almost similar. It's just accepting something, looking at the data, and let the data tell you the story. And that is, I think, very important. Not your hypothesis drive the data in the interpretation. That is very important. This is in my field very important because, you know, we started with anatomy. Today, then, you know, this is Rembrandt's image. You know, there's some errors in the anatomy because back in time you could not dissect people. He did it, but that was not the normal. And we moved to experimental pathophysiologists. But the physician of the future is going to be a little bit different. He's going to integrate all this information with AI and looking really, and you need to have many skill sets. You need to be experimental molecular biologists, clinical trialists, geneticists, and you can have 100 flavors of researchers. You can have the personalities. You don't have to have them all in you, but you need to have partners that do that and come together. And medicine is changing. But one of the worries I have, and I'm sitting in many tumor boards, deciding what drugs, because I'm the head of the cancer center, what drug, which genetic alteration is important for which person, is with the risk is we're losing the human touch. At the end, we're humans, and that is what makes us special. And as I heard, the caressing the little pets is important. Caressing the human soul is very important, and that is the role of the physician. So coming to your question about AI, I think that is an important question. What AI hopefully will allow us to do is become humans again and interact with humans as a human and not as a data integration machine of intellect. That will be one step, but we will hopefully get future. The future, I think we're in the golden age of medicine. Healthcare has never been as good as possible, rich and potential. We have almost solved every disease in the lab. It's all about us to translate it to the patient. And there's been a process of 20 years, but it's been, you know, the dying breed of physician researchers is a dying breed because there's no investment, it's not attractive, you don't make money, and nobody's investing in it in general. But this place here, you're creating a new breed. And that is what is special. You're in a special program where you are addressing this unmet need in a very special way. In my specialty, it's all about prevention. So you see, I'm a surgeon. I spend 4 days a week operating. Nothing up here has to do with operations. The future is about prevention. That's the way we're going to beat the cancers. We have a surge of cancers around the world, right? It's integrating artificial intelligence in our medicine, simulations, how we're going to train the doctors of the future through simulations, and that's what we're investing in, instead of training on the humans. Applied research is something that everybody wants to knock out in the business plan. The government of Austria has just been voted. They're making a program for the healthcare. They said, we're going to dump this. This costs too much. This is what basic research. This is probably the most important. Testing your hypothesis that you discovered through your AI. Is it true? Does it apply? That is important to that. And medicine will change dramatically. It will go, in my field, when I started, I was doing big wax, right? I'm still like, I like to cut the patient in two, take the organs out, really. I love this. I never met a patient who likes it. I never met a patient who likes it. But we come out, we're all full of testosterone and so on. The reality, thanks God, over the last 10 years, 20 years, we went to minimum invasive. And the future is totally non-invasive. We're moving and everybody says, are you really a surgeon? Or you think, yes, because that is the future. And medicine is moving out from the big hospitals to an outpatient setting. Prevention, early detection is the way. So I'm training my next generation of urologists to have those things integrated. Tamas knows it. And everybody's like, we come to be a surgeon. But I said surgery is a primitive tool, right? You need to understand the disease. We only do surgery because we don't understand the disease and cannot address it adequately. Tip 8. Work hard on important issues. I already addressed it. Don't waste any man's time, not your own time. Important issues. So that means what? For me as a physician is what is important to my patient. If it doesn't come from the patient's problem, and we heard the cycle from the patient to the basic research, to the translational research, coming back to the patient, and the cycle gets a continuous cycle. How can I improve the health? By a large degree, not by a small degree. Not a small. Now you could say progress is accumulation of a lot of small things. But in reality, I think you as a life approach should be a large degree, but you're making small steps probably. Tip 9, foster creativity. So what does that mean? That means meet with people outside of your specialty. Talk to them, initiate discussions. Let that creativity flow. Don't try to direct it. Ask questions instead of telling them what to do. When I have a research meeting, I found out the most important thing is let everybody talk, and then I talk. Well, like board meetings, because I sound like the most intelligent because I have all the information from the other guys. But in reality, having an open door policy, being approachable, listening and being respectful, and stimulating. And I have a very unique approach, and Tamas has seen it. I only hire people who disagree with me. I want people to tell me what they're thinking. I want that this friction, because that friction will move you forward. That will give you progress. I want people that ask questions, that are kind of annoying, kind of difficult personality, and have brainstorming with them. Actually, Tamas knows when we have our research meeting, we never talk about research, right? It's like they're all coming to learn how to do some research part. I don't talk about research. I will talk about everything except tea research, a little bit of research as well, and having that outside of the box. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the most incredible cities, said, be the change you want to see in the world or in the field. Tip 10, I'm getting to the end. I think in academia, at the end, it's true that publication is important. Now, this is changing with social media, right? So you may not publish an article, but you put it on social media, but it's short-lived. Publications have a long life, and people can look at it, and there's a certain structure. And you have to check what you do. For those on social media, they can influence and change the world, but you need to also adhere to the same rules of publication. Every job is a self-portrait. Whatever you write, if a portrait of yourself, what you do it, and autograph that with excellence. Don't think it's because it's short, it is a message. I will tell you why. I was a young student, first-year resident in urology. I wrote an article about radical cystectomy and techniques and so on. Published it. I had no clue. I'd never done a radical cystectomy in my life before, but I'd seen it, learned it, and put it together. Suddenly one day in this outpatient clinic comes somebody that comes from Ghana. He showed up in the clinic and he said, I want to be treated by me. I said, why by me? He said, somebody online read your article, the whole village collected the money to bring me to you to be treated by you. I said, my God, I had never treated. And I realized everything you write has an impact. It makes it like somebody will read it and think it's true or believe it's true. And I didn't write anything stupid. It was just, I realized how important it is to communicate. Whatever you say and do matters to the people. So you have to take that very seriously. Tip 11, and it's getting to the end, is give back to your community. Now, people say, I'm going to give back when I'm going to be rich. You can do it the American way, right? I'm going to steal a lot of money, and at the end, I will give some back, right? I don't think that's going to make you up. It's not going to get you into heaven, right? It's the reality you have to give back from the beginning and continuously. And giving back is the core of academia. So you can give back by teaching, by educating, patient advocacy, helping people around. There's 1 million ways by being compassionate to others and creating value. It's not about the success you have, but the value you create in your surrounding. And that will be felt. That's what Peter is doing. He's creating value. You can give Peter whatever he wants. He knows what he wants. He wants to create value. And suddenly people are flocking to you. Your success, you will be much more successful than if you run after success. Because then success will run away. You run after money, money will fly away. So find out what your talents are, your gifts are, and share that with others. Mentorship is important. You can be a mentor. You have the program, Peter, that where you immediately make people to be a mentor, because this is what we're going to end up if we don't have an adequate mentorship. You cannot choose your parents, but you can choose your mentor. And you know, the story of mentorship is from Homer's poesy. 3,000 years ago, he wrote this story, you know, the king of Ithaca, Odysseus, goes on this trip, right, to Troy. He's 10 years in the Battle of Troy, and then he needs another 10 years to come back. So he gives his son to his trusted friend, whose name is Mentor, who becomes like a second father, who nurtures, cherishes. And mentorship is about making the next generation better than you. I'm very lucky because most of my students have become 1,000,000 times better than me. One that runs AI, the biggest European AI company. He just got, 2 days ago, 600 million from an industry, and he's growing and growing. I have other guys that are in top leaderships, chairmen of department. I have 12 chairmen of department in the United States. The departments are much bigger than mine. This is the thing when you're in mentorship, and that is the most gratifying part of our job. This has been my mentor. You know, mentorship is a very menteeship. It's not like, it's like friendship. You cannot go to somebody and say, do you want to be my friend? Weirdo, right? Mentorship is something that arises over time. And mentorship is also, you know, something that I would say that I have with Peter. I'm learning from Peter, but it's also in both ways. I have it with Tamas. I'm learning from my students more than they learn probably from me. Mentorship is about a friendship that grows over time. My main mentor in my life, and most of your mentorships are not in your field. These are not your ambassadors, your enablers. It's not the guy who's going to get you the job or something like that. This is just a facilitator, a spokesman, an ambassador for you. Mentors mostly are in other fields or similar fields, similar interests, but they're not really helping you only advance your career, but grow your brain, your soul, and grow who you have inside. This is my mentor. He's a professor of sociology. He happens to be my uncle. And he's a professor of sociology, and he's taught me 5 things. And he's the most annoying person I know since childhood. We've been arguing every day, and we're the closest, and I call him almost every day. He taught me that an obsession with learning is important. You always have to learn. He taught me that discomfort is important to grow. Each time I'm in discomfort, I'm thinking, that's why I'm growing. If it's comfortable, I'm not moving forward. He learned me that the status quo that is currently here, I could be sitting and saying it's good, I have enough awards. No. It's like you have to challenge the status quo continuously to make progress. And he learned me that the persistence is very important. Not give up. Believe in yourself. You know who you are. Believe in yourself and just move forward even if everybody tells you it's the wrong way. And he taught me that inspiring others is good. And that's why academia is important. Why meetings like this? Because we're inspiring each other while we're talking. Anyway, finally, I think the most important, you have to love what you do. What you think, what you thought while coming to this meeting today will determine how much of this meeting you will take home. When you drive to work, when I say to my young doctors, if that day you're thinking, what are you going to do after work? You're thinking while you're going to work, the whole day will be for nothing. Think about the accomplishments you're going to have in the morning. Sometimes take, I do 30 minutes of yoga every morning. I meditate shortly. What I want to achieve in that day, what I'm going to do. Not everybody has to do. Everybody has his way or her way of getting around this, but really be very conscious of what you're doing every day. Share that love with others. Don't expect money, fame, because you may be the most important. If Marty tomorrow goes here in a coffee shop, do you think anybody will recognize Marty and say, wow, Nobel Prize winner, you're going to get the best coffee? No. Nobody will know it. Don't expect anything for it. And this is the highest you can get. Don't expect money, power, or anything. Just for the cause it is. Because you believe this is the right thing, and you all have it in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You're anyway a self-selected group. But all people have it in them. It's because the legacy of the better world we may create by inspiring others and putting that little bit of love, growing that little bit of fire in somebody else, alone should be the most rewarding thing, and not expecting anything in return. And hopefully that will perpetuate it, and your students will perpetuate that love. You see a great mentor, his students all have created even bigger things, and it's like an avalanche of really love that goes around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Shariat, for this.
I hope you don't have any questions.
For this excellent and really inspiring talk today. So I would like to open the floor for any questions, discussions. There's one question over there.
Hi. Great. Professor Dr. Shariat, thank you very much for your inspiring presentation. Let me talk a little bit about my background, so the question that I'm going to ask makes a lot more sense. I'm a health economics analyst at the Central Bank of Hungary, where I happen to work with startups which were either postgrad students of the BME, I believe a couple of Semmelweis students too, but mainly economists. And this cross-university project was started by the MIT REAP Foundation, focusing on accelerating the innovation made in universities and research to translate it. You, as a prominent translational medicine scientist, do you have any suggestions or any ideas how these innovations and the research can be utilized or made into profit, or besides put on a shelf or in an article or in a journal, how we can put it in real life and actually use it so it's for the better benefit or for better healthcare?
It's a very challenging question because, I obviously don't have an answer. That's why I'm starting like that. But, when I met you before, you were just, we were talking about my slides and how to put it in the system, and you told me briefly what you're doing. I said, wow, great I met you, because I think we're going to do a lot of things together. When we talked about we're going to do microplastic, health economy, and all that. And you said, wow, what is, it's by chance. I said, it's not by chance we met. So I think this is going to be what you're doing, and from where you're coming, is probably you're going to be probably one of the most enriching persons to this program. And this program is going to be the most enriching to you to make a difference. I think health and economy, I said money is not important, you don't run after money, but money is very important to do research. Healthcare systems, in the United States, you have 18% of the GDP on healthcare. In Europe, you're somewhere between 11 to 13% in any country, and a rising cost, aging population. These are things we need to address. The drugs are getting expensive, but it's not the drugs, the infrastructure. So all this is very important. And the money that's going to go into research to address those, this is a very important area of research, I think. And having people that are different-minded and come from different backgrounds is going to be very important to work in that. Not only researchers, but really, like you, people that come from banking or, from economic backgrounds that have totally different backgrounds. So I think that interface is probably the most enriching interface. How's that going to shape the future? Well, I think alone the fact that you are here and this exchange is happening, or a dialogue is happening, and that dialogue is absolutely necessary to show our vulnerabilities. You know, we are all vulnerable in what we're doing. And together we can strengthen and learn from each other and thereby make some progress in what we're doing. The risk that is happening, and we talked briefly about it, you know, in the NIH funding or all these funding of health things will decrease over time because science and evidence-based medicine is something that's become a misnomer to, you know, negativity. But I think people like you can take it back, and then in health policy. We need people that are doing health policy and health economics to advance the field and allow researchers and other people in their specialties to work. I think also we talked briefly, 1 second only, macroplastic research is the hottest area of research now. Climate change and macroplastic, bringing that together. Who would have thought about that, right? We have shown in labs that actually you have a decreasing fertility, we found, around the world. You know, fertility for ours, this is an important thing. Our society is involving children, and a large part of that is due to endocrine disruptors that come from microplastics, right? So it's incredible how things can be interconnected that you never thought it would be interconnected and matter to each other. Or also in the OR. My specialty as a surgeon, we have a lot of, you know, single-use instruments. Single-use because of hygiene and so on. And turns out, crazily, those single-use instruments are actually have a CO2 footprint that are less than our multiple-use instruments if used adequately. So there are a lot of things that you think are true or not true, and their health economy is going to play a role, I think, that is important. Thank you.
And with this, thank you so much, Professor Shariat, for the presentation. It's my pleasure to hand you a certificate of appreciation from behalf of Semmelweis University and the Center for Translational Medicine. Thank you so much once again.